I just recently did a darkness retreat thing in the last 6 months or
Whoa,
so.
cool.
It's
What's
weird.
a darkness retreat? Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah. You sit in a dark room for anywhere. I did 4 days and 5 nights, so it was
With no light during that entire time?
zero, zero, zero,
The
zero,
whole
like
time,
zero,
no
like
breaks.
no breaks. You have no idea what time it is. Well, there's a guy. I did a podcast with a guy called Scott. I don't remember his last name, but he's done a bunch. So he has
Uh-huh.
this place called Sky Cave Retreats in Oregon, and yeah, you go in there and you sit in this room. There's a bed, little like meditation area, and like a very small little bathroom thing. So it's like a very tiny little space, but it's nice. It doesn't need to be nice, but it's like a little cabin
Yeah, it's a little bonus.
underground.
Right.
Yeah. And they bring you food once a day. And then they bring you like all of the food for the day. So it's like kind of 3-ish meals. They come with little Tupperware things. And you just sit with yourself in darkness for, anywhere from, 3 days to much longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the original tradition of this comes from my understanding, from this tribe called the Kogi people, and they pick specific children from their tribe that are kind of like, these are like the chosen shamans, and they
Shamans
are
in
going
training.
to shamans in training. Yeah, so they're going to live in more in like the dark realm, and
Okay.
for I think it's up until age, I don't remember what age it is, 8, 9, 10, something like that. They during the day they are only exposed to darkness, and I believe they're like able to have access to like moonlight or something like that. And it's like a removal from this world that we kind of normalize, and it's just about the introspective world, and just about like a lot of emphasis on the dream world and like this
Sure.
whole other plane of reality. And that was unnecessary. I'm just suggesting like there are people on this planet that are very interested in the dream world, and our perspective on the dream world is kind of like, we just don't know what the fuck it is. It's very confusing. It's interesting. We have different shots at what it is. It's like your subconscious playing itself out, like Jungian stuff. But like, what
Definitely.
the hell is a dream? And how do you, if you were trying to nudge against what you were saying, how do you really objectively prove that your waking life is not a dream? It would be very challenging to
Well,
objectively
we'd have to
prove that.
define dream first, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not kidding. So if you define what a dream is, and then we have dream definition, reality definition, and then you ask to prove why one is not the other, now it's just pretty tractable.
Yeah.
A dream is a mental experience animals have when they're asleep. So if you're not asleep, you're not dreaming.
But when you're dreaming, you think that you're not asleep. So could there be
Yeah,
a
but you're wrong
potential?
because you're actually asleep. We can show you
Right.
videographic
But
evidence.
you're very
shown
confident.
later. Yeah, you can, but if, within your own head, you can be
Unless
wrong
you're
about
lucid.
stuff. Now it's
Yeah.
back to the same thing of, what you experience in your own head more convincing to you than what you know to be true from other integrated experiences, like being able to read books about how the rest of the world looks. And I think that if you start to read enough books about how the rest of the world looks, and you walk around and see some things, you begin to become more confident that when you go to sleep, what you experience in your head is just the stuff in your head, and the world continues on around you, still doing its thing. It doesn't go on pause, So like,
Yeah.
if you have garbage truck that comes in 4 a.m. and picks up your garbage, if you fall asleep, your garbage is still getting picked up. So now you have to suppose some magical kind of activity. You say, well, actually the world continues on. Like, that's not to say there's not a ton of really fascinating stuff in the dream world, but the dream world is a sub world. The dream world actually is a simulation. Literally, your brain is simulating reality. Well, I would say poorly in that case, which is why a lot of dreams are nonsense. But your brain simulates various scenarios for you that are often tied to your own personal and social problems. And some of these scenarios are baked in through our evolutionary history. So a lot of the anxieties and a lot of the symbolic reasoning we do in dreams is very understandable from the perspective of how mammals feel about things. And notice I didn't say think, because there's actually not a ton of thinking that happens in dreams, especially the ones I have. It's mostly feeling. Like dogs dream, sure shit, they're not thinking about a whole lot. A dog has a vocabulary of 5 words. How the hell is it going to think about anything? So it's one of those things where, yes, the dream world is very rich and can tell us a lot about ourselves and can tell us a lot about common humanity and even common life. Like you can have a connection with your dog if you both know what deep anger feels like. And you do,
Mm-hmm.
fear feels like when you see a dog scared, you know what it feels like because you felt scared. Same facial expressions, plus or minus, same body positioning. So you're thinking, okay, in that dog's brain, it's experiencing very likely a similar emotion. These are emotions that tie all of us together. There's a hugely rich tapestry there. And I think some of the ancient peoples were very much attentive to what is that tapestry like? What is it saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of that's because they were trying to bridge the gap between things that are felt and then actions in the world. And,
Mm-hmm.
most modern psychotherapists will tell you, like, you got to get to what's in here before you act a lot. And I think a lot of people just skip right to the action. And then there's a little mini leap they do between the world is totally objective and all just machines, and then they take a little hop, which is actually a huge hop of like, well, nothing in the swirl in here really matters. And it's like, this might be the only thing for you that matters most
Yeah.
of the time in which you're physically safe and have food. Now, physical safety and food, that has dick to do with up here. That has to do with what you do with your hands out in the world to get those things. Once you have them, you do really live in your mind, right?
Mm.
100% of the time. Its contents are important, and it's not just an empty vessel for thoughts. It has a rich. Are you familiar with the like Carl Jung, his philosophy of like
Yeah.
archetypes? That shit is all real. How come almost all Disney stories are basically the same? Like, how come? What is the Wicked Witch? How come that you show a kid in Africa a Caucasian movie with Caucasian people with a Caucasian Wicked Witch, and they're like, I feel that. That's a bad lady.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? Because these are archetypes that are based in evolutionary psychology, and you have an intuitive sense of that shit. And it is
Yeah.
not taught to you. You know it deep down as your brain matures from birth. You discover it. And that discovery is something that a lot of cultures that are using psychedelics, ancestral cultures, they're pretty fucking good at. And a lot of us in the West are good at with psychotherapy and with really like, like you go into retreats and stuff. But a lot of people just want to wash that away as like, oh, it's nothing, or it's all just cultural. I just learned to act like this. Like, I don't know if you learn to act like this. I think you're meant
Yeah.
to act like this. And if you don't wake up from that, you could be trying to change your behavior in the wrong way for a very long time. So my
Yeah.
my mission is not to say the world is just machines. And it's like you said something earlier when you thought as a teen, love is just chemicals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, a blowjob is sorry. Is like, can I say this on this podcast? Is that okay to say, or
Yeah.
is that a bit
Yeah. Fuck, cock,
okay?
shit.
Fuck
Have
it.
at it.
All
Yeah.
right, great. A
Yeah.
blowjob is also just like skin on skin contact, but
Yeah.
it feels amazing. So the experience, you can try to degrade an experience by sort of like mechanistically insulting it or relegating it, but that doesn't have to be a thing. You can have a mechanistic experience, and it's entirely definable in terms of equations and vectors and all that stuff. And it's still exactly as beautiful and magical as it ever was. For example, there are some people that need kind of an ascended plane. Well, how about this? We are all uh, leaves and flowers on the great tree that is the universe. We don't live in the universe. That's a big misconception. We
Yeah.
are part of the universe. The
It's very
universe
western
is
to
us.
eastern.
Yeah, 100%. We're
Yeah.
not like nodes. And there's the external world and the internal world. Bullshit. It's all one world. You are a pre trained by evolution GPT navigating its environment, and we are the first of our kind to ascend to being able to be truly self-aware in any remotely deep way that basically all the other animals just don't have. And so what we are is humans are the tip of the spear of an ever increasing awareness of the rest of the universe by
Mm-hmm.
life as the replicator and survivor. And it turns out life is getting better at getting smarter and becoming more aware. And as AI and technology do one of these, the amount of awareness of our world we have grows all the time. So we are really at the very beginning of a process in which we as humans are learning much more about the world than we'd almost ever get a chance to know in any previous generation of humans. For example, there are like a trillion websites. We can go right now, you go Tokyo live webcam, click. You just get a live webcam of just fucking Tokyo, just sitting there. There's cars going and people. When in history could you live observe the city of Tokyo? Now that's cool. It's a little quirk. But what about when there's satellites everywhere? everyone has digital uplink anywhere they want, and everyone's wearing AR, VR glasses, and they're always streaming everything. That's our society, our humanity, taking a quantum leap in how much awareness of the world we have. We're learning more and more about the molecular systems that compose us. We're learning more and more about how to alter them to get the best results we want. Take a drug for fat loss, take a drug for muscle gain. You're sad, take an antidepressant. That is the beginning of our journey into understanding the world infinitely more and then altering it to how we see fit. But how we see fit part is going to change because we're going to understand so much more. That alone is just totally reality. That's what's going on. To me, that gives me a religious-like reverence for, holy crap, this is real. There is no need to suppose any deeper level because I barely struggle understanding that level by itself. And that's all just machines going around. So that's kind of my take on it is the spiritual is right here in the right now. This is what is it Richard Dawkins called life on earth, the greatest show on earth, right? It really, really is. If you think about it for long enough, you say, wow, okay, this my spirituality is just living in reality and seeing where this whole thing ends up and maybe trying to get it, my own little contribution to help us learn more or something like that. But I think anytime people sort of recede into the spiritual and say, well, there's the spiritual and there's the real, we have so much more to learn about the real. I think taking a step back into the spiritual and saying, look, this is where my values come from, I think that might be a bit of a mistake. I think the world demands much more of our study and examination so we can be much more confident in what is real or ethereal or whatever. So there's my old hammer for science.
Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you did, feel free to tag us on the Instagram. You can find me at Aaron Alexander on there. Also check out the YouTube channel that is at Align Podcast. Subscribe over there so you get each week's videos and instructional content. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for reviews. Thanks for doing you. I'll see you next week.